Everyone on my street is against me. I'm. What up, Search fam? Sharde here. It's Tuesday. So grab your tea and let's get started. I hope you are doing well. I have missed you. I ended up taking an unplanned week off because I was really not doing well last week. I was quite ill, having some health complications, stress related, of course, and so I just did not have the capacity to film and edit and get videos up last week. But we're back at it again with another chat. Over the weekend, I had something happen that really got me to thinking. I went to a botanica quite a way away from where I live. It's probably like 30-45 minutes, but wanted to go out and check it out. Went with my bestie because we were both feeling quite out of sorts that day. I'm sure you guys can tell by now if you've watched me at any length. If you're new, hi, welcome. So glad you're here. But we went to the botanica, and if you don't know by now, I am kind of a gentle soul, right? I'm very kind to pretty much everyone I meet. So like the way that I talk to you all on my YouTube channel is actually how I interact with people in real life. This is not an act. This is all real. And I do that because I'm intentional about the ways in which I interact with people because I really believe the adage that says you never know what kind of battles another person has going on. So I try to approach people with a certain level of compassion, not knowing what they're going through. And maybe I'm the person that day that through offering compassion and through seeing them, through doing something small, especially my service people, as reading their name tag and calling them by name and like engaging them in that way. I don't know how much that's a little bit of sunshine, that's a little bit of water in a bucket. So I'm very intentional about doing that. And so went to the botanica, was looking around, picked up a few items. They're having a good old, practitioner good time, little witchy good time. The person who checked me out, they were just like, oh, you have such a humble spirit and things like that. And I said, thank you. But this made me think like it didn't feel as good as it probably should have. And so I looked up, you know, the definition of humble and humility because I've been one that has prided myself on the fact that I am humble, and I kind of do my best to remain that way because I never want to be perceived as being arrogant or full of myself or any of that. But when I looked up the definition, and part of the definition is just like having a lowly estimate of oneself, being lowly, being modest, being, all of these things that did not feel good. And so I had to think because it was calling into question my alignment with being humble, my sort of obsession with being humble, because sometimes it comes off in a very self-deprecating way because I did not realize that until that moment, and as I've been reflecting on it, that I do value myself that way. And the question came up for me as I am working through the fact that this is kind of, the term is chafing me a little bit, that does humility keep us small? And I think, at least for me, it has, because I've been so afraid of being perceived as being too big for my britches. And I have been told that before as a kid. But there is another story there that makes that whole sentiment a little bit problematic for me. But that's another tale for another day, I think. And I think what we tell, especially children who are precocious, really smart, very capable, high achievers, is we try to instill in them that they don't want to be sore winners. They don't want to boast. They don't want to come off as arrogant to others, because then people won't like them. People won't want to be your friend if you always talk about your winnings and everything you've achieved and everything you've done. And I get it. But also, I wonder, especially because I'm a Black woman, and I feel like the world is always looking for a reason to humble you. You can't achieve too much because you're getting outside of your lane. And that is tied very much to issues of patriarchy, white supremacy, the things. And so I think this is chafing me now because my experience as a Black woman has been trying to defend myself and preemptively shield myself from being humbled. Somebody perceiving who I am as being bigger than I should be, and doing their best to tear me down to a manageable size. And I think because of that, when you sort of have the mindset of a fear of being yourself authentically, and we're not talking about in a way that is actually problematic and arrogant, but you're just being standing up in who you are and presenting yourself as authentically as possible. And if that persona, the way you present yourself, is actually big, that people are going to be bothered by, and then that is a bad thing. And so I'm having to reframe that whole idea of humility and being humble, because what it has done is to poorly color how I interpret and understand myself. Because I do lower myself in many instances. I do make myself smaller in spaces so that I will not get drawn negative attention. Now, that has never stopped me from drawing negative attention to myself, because there's like, when you are just being yourself, you're being who you are, even if it is in a very I don't know, low key kind of way. Like you don't have a personality where you stick out, just generally speaking. And I like to think that I don't really, because I'm an introvert. I don't like to be the center of attention. I just don't. But when I'm being who I am, in my joy, in my bag, like doing something I love, it I I stand out, right? And people notice who I am. People come up and talk to me, things like that. Even if I am not talking to anybody, I am at peace, I am just existing, it still draws people to me. Like, this is me, home frequency, kicking it. And so, me deflecting attention away by lowering myself does not make me comfortable. And trying to make others comfortable at the expense of just being who I am when I am at ease and letting that take up space is of detriment to my ability to see clearly who I am. And I think that is the case for a lot of people, that we are so afraid of not being seen as humble that we sometimes diminish ourselves even further so that we do not become the object of some sort of ridicule. And while I do think it is important to practice humility, practice, just being kind and being sort of okay with not boasting. Like, I don't think everything deserves a boast, but some things, let me be clear, some things you should celebrate, and you should definitely be like, I did that. That thing did it. That I am out here proud of myself, proud of who I am. Like, everybody deserves to peacock a little bit, But I think the more important thing is that I am learning is that I have bent myself out of shape to not make people uncomfortable, making myself uncomfortable. And there have been instances where people will still find a reason to say that I am upsetting them. I am offending them by my mere presence. Um, and you can't please everyone. There will always be someone whose whole spirit is disturbed by your mere presence. And you can be sitting there literally reading a book or enjoying time with the people you love, and someone will be bothered by your essence and find a reason for ridicule, especially on the internet. I think the internet has made that so much worse. And so I think it's worth examining. And I'm not telling everybody to go out here and just be boasting and, all that stuff, unless you feel like it. I mean, if that's your reality and that's where you are and that's what makes your heart happy, and it's not necessarily at the expense of others, I'm for it. Do it. But I think what I want to bring up is that we should examine a lot of things, but examine how your relationship to humility, to being humble, and asking oneself, am I being humble? Am I being humble in the sense of like undue modesty? Like I'm being modest for no reason? Am I lowering myself? Am I making myself of a lowly rapport to shield myself from ridicule? Am I diminishing my light? Am I darkening my shine to make sure no one's around me is uncomfortable? And is that practice negatively impacting how I show up in the world? Because I do believe that we all were made to take up space and to be the truest, most authentic versions of ourselves, bring our gifts to the world because there's someone there that can benefit from our mere being in the same way that some people will be bothered by our mere being. And it becomes important for me, particularly as a Black woman, that I really examine my connection and my desire and sort of knee-jerk responses to be perceived as humble and not arrogant. And it's really funny. When I was a teenager, I worked at a grocery store. So I worked in service, and I was there was a guy there that ended up being my boyfriend. I was a cashier and he started as a bagger. And he told me later after we'd started dating that when he first met me, he thought I was arrogant. And I was blown away because I'm like, how could you think that about me? And he was like, I don't know. That's just how you came off to me when we first met. And I'm quite certain that it is because more often than not, when a person encounters me, I seem very sure of myself. I seem confident, even though I'm not loud or anything. And I know as a teenager, I was probably a little bit more of a know-it-all than I am now. Even though I know a lot of things now, a lot more things now. I was a little bit more free flowing with the things that I knew, right? You're hard pressed to get me to talk about some things now. How do you respond to humility? What do you think of it? Is it something that you pride yourself on being? Like a characteristic that you pride yourself on having? Is it something that you are seeking to always show, especially in lieu of showing your authentic self in some ways? Or is it something that, you're like, yeah, I'm humble, but also if I did that thing, or have you gone to the place, and I saw a meme that one of my photographer friends put up about no longer being humble, that they are going to be very outward with their achievements and their joys and things like that. I'll see if I can find it, and I'll put it up here. But yeah, where do you fall in this? As always, my dear ones, I love you. I hope and pray that the week ahead of you is peaceful, and it is whatever you need it to be, whether you need it to be productive, whether you need it to be restful, whether you need it to just be easy on your nerves. I pray that you get that thing. Um, as always, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share if you think this is helpful and valuable. And I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.